Hello, I don't know about you, but I can't believe we are almost in February. So at the time of filming, it's the 29th of January today, and I have been looking at my year ahead spread to help me decide which decks I'm going to be working with next month. Now, before we get started, do comment below and let everybody know which decks you are using this February, because it may help somebody who hasn't quite decided. So the overall theme that came through loud and clear for my winter part of my year ahead spread was growth. And to start off, I pulled the star card from my Yule deck for the 3 months of winter, and this card is all about doing the things and being guided by the things that make me light up and are going to help me to be the best version of me. In addition to that, I pulled 3 other cards from different decks. So from the Orion's Animal deck, the 3 of Swords, that was my opportunity. The 6 of Swords from the Star Spinner deck as my challenge, and the 8 of Pentacles from the Pagan of Tarot Cats as my way of overcoming the challenge. And so my interpretation for the February part of my year ahead spread is all about moving on, navigating away from things that aren't serving me, and by doing so it will help me to move towards things that will help me prosper in the future. I have been looking at decks which I hope will help me to explore the theme of that particular read. Okay, so the first deck that I'm going to be working with this month, this February, should be no surprise to people that have been following my channel, but it is of course the Imbolc Oracle, part of the Season of the Witch series. Now, I've chosen to work with this, obviously February the 1st being the Pagan Festival of Imbolc, and in my recent review I went through this deck in quite a lot of detail and explained how this is a really good deck for self-reflection and self-care. And I think, as the cards have already told me, that this winter is a period of growth. Obviously, in order to grow, you've got to put a lot of work in, and so I'm looking forward to using this deck really just to help me stay in check and to keep me balanced and to make sure I don't run myself into the ground, because I'm quite good at doing that, and when I get to that stage I don't end up doing anything. I sort of get to burnout stage, and I'm really committed to achieving my goals this year, so I think this is going to be a really valuable tool to have. The second Oracle deck that I'm going to be working with this month is a new deck to me, which is the Plant Ally cards by McLoughlin. And again, if you've watched some of my videos, you will know that I'm a big fan of McLoughlin, who is an indie deck creator. I was drawn to this deck because, one, the colours are beautiful and I just really love her artwork. I'm also interested in connecting with nature a little bit more, and so this deck is all about connecting to plant energies. And I think, you know, as we head into February, we're getting closer and closer to spring, and what better deck to use than this one, where we can draw upon that sort of seedling energy, where the seeds and the plants are about to break through the earth and grow into the sunlight, which I think is a wonderful metaphor anyway. So super excited to work with this deck. I've had wonderful readings from all of Lisa's other decks, and I can't see why this one wouldn't be any different. I'm going to also be using a couple of Lisa's other decks. The first being is the Tree Wisdom cards. I have a longer review on this, so I'll just talk briefly. So I think the Plant Ally cards are going to give encouraging words to help with growth, for reasons I explained whilst looking at those cards, whereas I think the trees, if you think trees are much older, much more ancient beings, I think they are going to be useful for those times when I'm not quite sure. Whenever I've used this deck, particularly because of the faces, but this is a really reassuring deck. And I also find that if I'm not quite sure a reading that I've done with another deck, using this deck is a really good deck for just summing up a reading and sort of shedding light on maybe a nuance of a reading that I hadn't quite picked up on. I found this deck particularly useful using the Season of the Witch Samhain deck. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reconnecting with this just beautiful deck. So sticking with Lisa McLoughlin, again, I have a full review on this deck, is her tarot deck, and this is also a nature-based deck, the Tarot Gallimaufry, and this deck is all about thinking about the tangles that we find ourselves in, and particularly untangling the wilder side of nature. And I think when we want to grow, sometimes there are a lot of options available to us and we're not quite sure which option to take, and so we find ourselves in a bit of a tangle. And so I'm hoping that this deck will help me to untangle some of those decisions and dilemmas that I might have to be making over the forthcoming months, and particularly in February, to help with this growth and to make it more of an experience that is one that is informed rather than coming from a place of chaos. I'm also going to continue working with my pocket universal Waite deck in my attempt to continue to learn the Rider-Waite Smith system a little bit more in depth. I've split these into major and minor cards, and that's simply because I've been following the guidance of Liz Dean from the Ultimate Guide to Tarot book. So last month I was using her suggestion. Actually, I realised I'd combined two suggestions, which is to get intuitive working with the images and using the major cards first. So I sort of combined that activity. I don't typically do reversals at the moment anyway, and so this month I'm going to be exploring just reading the suit cards by their elements. That's not something I've done before, and whilst I'm aware of their elements, I think it would be interesting to explore that aspect of the tarot cards further. And interestingly, and I've just realised this, the Lisa McLoughlin Gallimaufry Tarot is actually an elemental deck as opposed to a suit deck, so I think that combination will hopefully work quite nicely hand in hand. And I'd also like to check in with the Rooted Woman Oracle by Sharon Blackie this month. Because of this idea of growth, I feel like this is a really valuable deck to use. This book is all about exploring the heroine's journey, and so the deck has been designed to work a little bit more like tarot in the fact that this has been separated into suits. When you draw the three cards, one from each suit, so journeys are the square suit, allies is the circle suit, and places is the triangular suit, you lay them out, and very much like tarot, you can then weave a story together about your current stage on this journey, which I find absolutely fascinating. And it's really quite pertinent to the situation. And I've only used it a couple of times, but when I have used them, I felt like the cards have given quite an accurate or fair interpretation of the situation I have been asking about. So I think this is really good. This is a deck which I think is more for a deep dive rather than just a general daily reading. And I have put a video which includes this deck and how I've used it for a reading. Final deck I shall be using in February. In fact, I think this is one that I'm going to be coming back to over the year, is the Guardian Angel Oracle deck by Delia Ciccarelli. And this is the outer box, and you get a smaller box inside. And this is a 72 card deck which has 72 angels, and these are the angels as described in the Kabbalah. This is the back of the deck. And I got this deck really because I was quite interested in looking at angels a little bit more. You'll find that this one is quite a bit more muted than some of the other angel decks out there. So particularly some of the Hay House angel deck creators like Kyle Gray and Diana Cooper. These colours are a lot softer, and I believe she created these using pastels. The way I'm planning on using these cards is to just ask this deck which angel's advice or guidance I need to help me navigate a certain situation. Thank you so much for joining me today to have a look at the tarot and oracle decks that I'm going to be using this February. I hope you found that useful, and if you haven't quite decided which decks you're going to use, I hope it has given you some inspiration for some decks that you could consider. If this video was helpful, I'd love it if you gave it a like, and if you enjoy tarot related content, then please consider subscribing to my channel. It really does mean a lot. I'm Sally, this is my channel, Vaudeville Manor, House of Art and Tarot, and until the next video, here are some other videos that you can watch in the meantime. Bye bye.